Okay, so what if the secret to happiness isn't what we think it is at all? In this explainer, we are going to dive deep into the latest World Happiness Report. And believe me, it has some really surprising things to say about what actually makes a country content. So, the 2025 World Happiness Report just dropped, and it's got us all asking this one huge question. What's the actual secret to being the happiest country on Earth? And for the eighth year in a row, Finland has taken the top spot. They are just the undisputed champions of being happy. But here's where things get interesting. At the exact same time, the United States has tumbled down to 24th place. That's the lowest it has ever been since these reports started.
So what is going on here? This widening gap, it's not just about who has the most money, it's really a story about connection, about trust. And it makes you wonder, what does it even mean to be happy? All right, let's get into it.
First up, let's play detective a little bit and look at the clues behind America's historic drop. It seems to be driven by some pretty concerning social trends.
You know, a huge piece of this puzzle seems to be a startling rise in loneliness. And the data here is, wow, the number of Americans who eat all of their meals alone has shot up by 53% since 2003. That's a really powerful sign of just how socially isolated people are becoming. And this feeling of being disconnected, it's hitting young people the hardest. It's actually pretty shocking. One of the report's editors said their life satisfaction has fallen off a cliff. To put that in perspective, if you only surveyed people under 30, the US would plummet out of the top 60 entirely. That is a massive red flag. But it's not just about being alone. The report points to something bigger, a broader societal problem. There's this growing lack of trust in each other and our institutions. And you add to that the rise in political polarization, well, the report says those are major reasons for this unhappiness.
Okay, so enough about the decline. What can we learn from the countries that are absolutely nailing it? Well, it turns out there isn't just one recipe for joy. There are actually two very different paths to happiness.
Let's start with Finland and the other Nordic countries. For them, the secret ingredient seems to be trust. And there's this fantastic experiment that shows this perfectly. They called it the dropped wallet experiment. Researchers just dropped wallets in cities all over the world to see what would happen. And in the Nordic countries, the number of wallets returned was way higher than even what people thought would happen. They trusted each other more than they even realized.
And what's so cool is how this culture of trust isn't just an accident. It's baked right into their society, right from the start. Just look at Finland's education system. The whole thing is built on equity and trust. That means teachers have the freedom to actually teach, and kids get to experience joyful learning. It's not about high-stakes, stressful testing. It's about preparing kids for life, not just for an exam.
But hold on, there's a completely different way to do it. And it's a fascinating contrast. Check out Mexico and Costa Rica. They both broke into the top 10 this year. And their success story isn't about massive government support systems. It's all about the incredible power of strong family and community bonds. Just to give you an idea, Mexico has less than half the number of people living in single-person households compared to Europe. What does that tell us? It suggests that these larger, more tight-knit family units create this incredibly powerful social support network. So powerful, in fact, that it can make up for other things, like differences in national wealth.
All right, so we've got two totally different models for happiness. You've got the Nordic Trust model and the Latin American community model. And that leads us to a really crucial question, a potential twist that could challenge this whole entire report.
What if the main tool we're using to measure happiness is actually flawed? Like, what if it has a hidden bias baked right in?
Okay, so the report leans really heavily on this one question, and it's called the Cantrell ladder. It's pretty simple. They ask people to picture their life on a ladder from 0 to 10. 0 is the worst possible life and 10 is the best. But here's the thing, new research is suggesting that this very metaphor, the ladder itself, might be culturally biased. Think about it. Researchers found that when you ask people to think about a ladder, their minds automatically go to ideas of climbing, of getting ahead, of wealth, power, and status. It frames happiness as a very individual competition.
And this gets to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? It shows this huge difference between an individualistic view of happiness, how satisfied am I with my life, and a more interdependent view, which asks something more like, are we as a community happy? It's me versus we. So here's the big takeaway from that. By relying so much on this ladder, we might be totally underestimating happiness in cultures that value community, harmony, and relationships way more than individual achievement. It means the rankings might be missing a massive piece of the global happiness puzzle.
But look, even with this whole debate about how we should measure happiness, which is super interesting, the report's findings year after year keep pointing to a few universal truths, a few core ingredients for a good life. So whether we're talking about Finland's amazing social safety net or Mexico's powerful family ties, the evidence is just overwhelming. Real, lasting happiness is rooted in social connection. It's about trust. It's about that fundamental human feeling that someone's got your back. And one thing is crystal clear, money alone will not get you there. And that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. What if happiness isn't a ladder you have to climb all by yourself? What if it's more like a table, to be shared with others? Maybe the real measure of a good life isn't how high you climb, but who's sitting at that table with you.